All right, so we're going to interpret the cricket model that I calculated earlier. So my x here was what? My x was the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So temp degrees Fahrenheit. Ooh, that's a hard one to spell. That does not look right. Fahrenheit, that looks better. All right, and y was the cricket chirps per minute. Chirps, there we go, per minute. And I found the slope was 4 and the y-intercept was -148. So I want to interpret the slope first. So slope, that's our rise over our run. And I'm not just writing this down for you, I'm writing this down for me, otherwise I can't figure this out. And my rise is a change in chirps per minute. So change in chirps per minute. My run, that's the x, that's a change in temperature. Change in temp. And I found the slope was 4. Now I need to write it as a fraction. So I'm going to go 4 over 1. So what does this tell me? Both of these numbers are positive. So that means if there's an increase of 1 degree Fahrenheit, I should see an increase in 4 chirps per minute. That's what the slope is telling me. It's telling me about the change. Change is either positive or negative, increase or decrease. These are both positive. So here's my interpretation. For an increase, we always talk about the input first. Increase of 1 degree Fahrenheit in the temperature. There should be, will be, however you want to say that, and that's positive, another increase of 4 chirps per minute. That's what the slope tells me. And for me to come up with how to phrase that, I got to write what's the change in the numerator mean, what's the change in the denominator mean, and then I have to compare that to my slope as a fraction. And then we always talk about the input first and how that changes the output. So that's the interpretation of the slope. To interpret the y-intercept, I got to remind myself that the y-intercept is a point. It's the point 0, -148. All right, 0 what? 0 degrees Fahrenheit. -148, 1. What? Chirps per minute. Okay, so this tells me that if the temperature is 0 degrees Fahrenheit, so if temp is 0, the crickets are frozen and make negative chirps. What? I'm going to write it and then I'll talk about it. There will be negative, a loss of 148 chirps per minute. That's weird. Okay, I'm just going to write it. It's weird. It doesn't make sense, but it is. There will be negative 148 chirps per minute. All right, what's the point of this here? Well, sometimes the y-intercept is just needed to get things to work out. But when we try to say what it means in reality, it's nonsense. Can we just erase it? No, we can't just erase it because then it doesn't match the data we have. The slope, if x and y are meaningful together, the slope will always be meaningful. That's super important. This y-intercept is nonsense. But the number is necessary. It just doesn't have a reasonable interpretation. And that happens sometimes. So you got to define your variables carefully in order to do these interpretations. I was expecting these interpretations on the last couple of activities, in particular that Shane's mountain bike ride one. And there will be a question on the test where you need to tell me what a slope means, which means you need to carefully know what each variable means and then write it out in sequence. Change in input tells me about a change in output. Use real numbers, the actual slope.